Hey guys, welcome to the Cinema Corral. This is the section on my YouTube channel where I talk about the latest releases and let you know if they're worth your time and money. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the movies that came out the week of July 19th, 2019. That includes The Art of SelfDefense and The Lion King remake, so let's begin. Alright, first up we got The Art of SelfDefense, and this is kind of an indie film. It's put out by Bleecker Street, and it stars Jesse Eisenberg as, I think the character's name was Casey. He gets beaten up by a gang of motorcyclists, and as a response decides to take up karate. I liked this movie, and when I went to go see it, it was surprisingly packed. Friday about, I think 2 o'clock-ish I went to go see it. There were only like 2 seats left in the auditorium that weren't taken, and I'm really surprised. I'm not sure how well it was received by other audience members, but I really liked it. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie. It definitely has some flaws. The biggest problem really being the pacing, and I feel like that's kind of an unintentional byproduct of the film's comedic stylings, which is more straight-faced and reserved, not outlandish like Will Ferrell style humor where it's just shouting things and expecting the audience to find that funny. This is more like a straight-faced humor, kind of in the vein of something like Napoleon Dynamite. I really like Jesse Eisenberg here, but I could also see this role being played pretty well by Michael Cera. It's really just the character type. It's not really a criticism of his performance. It's just I could also see Michael Cera in this role. But I also think Jesse Eisenberg does a pretty good job here. The comedy itself here is a little bit hit or miss. Since it is so dry, not everything will be funny all the time, but when it is funny, it is pretty funny. It gets a little bit outlandish in that you can't really believe what you're seeing, though when it does go for a more traditional, I guess, style of comedy, it does work in that regard. The cinematography is alright. There's really not that much there stylistically. I feel like this film really shines when it comes to the writing and the acting. On a technical level, it's kind of perfunctory, but I don't really think that it necessarily needed to be anything spectacular, especially given the tone of this film. I don't think any fancy edits would have really served the film. The film's biggest theme is that of what it means to really be a man and what is masculinity, what makes a person masculine. So Jesse Eisenberg's character, he owns a dachshund. You know, he's not very intimidating. He listens to stuff that you'd hear on the radio. He likes French things. He's not the quote-unquote ideal masculine character, but that all changes when his sensei recommends that he listens to death metal and gets a German Shepherd and starts learning German and just being more aggressive. And so it really does tackle what it means to be a quote-unquote masculine person. I think it's handled well enough to the point where it's not super preachy, but I don't feel like it was fully fleshed out the way that I feel like they might have been intending. I really like the supporting cast. I'm not sure that I've seen any of them in any other works. I might have seen them someplace else. I like them here. It's a little difficult to talk about this movie to somebody who hasn't seen it because it's very specific in its comedic stylings that if I were to just explain a joke, you probably wouldn't think it's funny, but it's really the delivery and the mannerisms of the characters that really make these jokes work. I can't say for certain that I'd really go back and watch it again. Maybe down the line. I think that there is definitely merit to this film, but as it stands, I'm going to go ahead and give it a B-. If you like indie films, if you like films that are a little bit more niche, this is probably something that you might enjoy. Just beware, it does get a little bit graphic. Not as bad as something like Midsummer or anything, but there are a few things that some viewers might be a little bit disturbed by. Alright, so last up we have the big movie of the week, The Lion King. Well, if you, in any of the 25 years that it has existed, have seen the original movie, you've seen this movie. I just saved you $12 a trip to the cinema and 2 hours with a brat behind you kicking your seat. You're welcome. Alright, well that's all I got for you this episode of Cinema Corral. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Fine, I'll talk about it. I hate this movie. I really hate this movie. You know when people complain about the Disney remakes of how they're literally a shot-for-shot remake of the original films, but also somehow worse? That's exactly what this is. This is exactly what people are talking about. Everything in this movie was done better in the original film. This entire film just feels so soulless. And yes, a lot of people have been talking about, well, it comes down to the fact that they are going for this hyper-realistic style where, the lions look like lions. And okay, yeah, I agree with them. One of the problems of this film is that the characters are not expressive enough. If you look at something like, I've seen this example before, Aslan from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. you can see some facial expression on him. It's not that hard to do it. Okay, but whatever. Jon Favreau wants this movie to look like you're watching a story with actual lines. Fine. Well, at least get competent voice actors, because out of the entire cast, I think maybe 3 or 4 of them are actually competent. How do you make Donald Glover one of the most charismatic, talented people in the entertainment industry? If you've seen Community, you know that he can bring so much weight and emotion to a character. How do you make him boring? How? Did you wake him up at 4 in the morning and stick him in front of a microphone and say, here, read your lines, we're doing Lion King now? He is so dull in this movie. Beyonce is not a voice actor, and honestly, I hope this is the end of her voice acting career, because she sucks. She is probably the worst offender in this film. Scar is, for the most part, okay, but the Long Live the King line is delivered with no nuance, no subtlety. Mufasa, James Earl Jones, imagine being paid again to recite the same lines. John Oliver, he's at least trying with this one, but everything that they give him annoys me. Eichner and Rogan as Timon and Pumbaa, they're easily the best parts of this movie, but that's still not saying much when they're given crap dialogue. That's the other problem with this film. The dialogue, it's either straight up lifted from the original film, or just it's exposition. It's unnecessary exposition that explains how a character is feeling. When you are writing a screenplay and you want to convey that a character is feeling an emotion, you do not have them say, I'm feeling sad, or something to that effect. No, you show and don't tell. And the biggest problem with this film is that it tells and does not show. There is no real visual storytelling here. It's all dialogue. Even the way that the camera moves, even the way that the shots are composed, the color palette, there is nothing here. It is so bland and blank and soulless. Everything about this film does not work. And yeah, I know, when you're talking about a film, you want to grade it on its own merit. But films do not exist in a vacuum. We live in a world where there is a 25-year-old film that is an award-winning, groundbreaking monster of a film that really pushed the boundaries of what animation can do. That movie will never stop existing, and a year or 2 from now, this movie is going to be forgotten. People are going to remember the original animated film. Nobody's going to remember this. But that doesn't matter to Disney because it's easy money. They're printing their own money at this point. Why do they have to even try? They don't try with this movie. Even the stuff that they add, quote-unquote, to make this movie feel a little bit more fleshed out, the bit where Scar is trying to move in on Sarabi, that was taken from a deleted scene from the original film. So even anything that they try to add in that's original was already done before and deemed unnecessary. Everybody complains, oh, I'm tired of reboots and remakes and sequels, and then you go and see the exact movie you saw 25 years ago. Hollywood has this thing where if it makes money, they will put out more of it until they can't make money off of it anymore. Stop giving them your money. Everything in this film is the original, but worse. The only people who deserve any praise for this thing are the VFX artists and Hans Zimmer. But even then, it's the same stuff he wrote 25 years ago. If you like this movie, fine, but I'm tired of the remakes. It's cheap, it's insincere, it's cynical. I'm giving this a D-. Everything surrounding this film, everything about this film, I utterly despise, but I refuse to deny that the VFX work is incredible. So that's all I got for you for this episode of Cinema Corral. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get notified whenever I upload next, and I will see you later.